Welcome to Season 4 of the Paleo Post podcast, your one-stop shop for all things human evolution, ancient art, and the stories that connect us all. I'm Seth Chagi, joined by my fantastic co-hosts Genevieve von Petzinger and Dr. George Nash. This season, we're taking you on a journey across continents and millennia, from the mysteries of rock art to the exciting prospects of my upcoming move to Portugal. We'll be chatting with some incredible guests, diving deep into the art and culture of our ancestors, and exploring the cutting edge of paleoanthropology. So buckle up for this season full of discovery, fresh perspectives, and a few surprises along the way. Hit the subscribe button and join us as we uncover the secrets of our shared past and chart new paths for the future. Let's get started. Hello, friends, family, travelers, and interested parties who may be visiting us in the world of paleoanthropology. We are gathered here once again with wonderful friends George Nash and Genevieve von Petzinger to talk about the ancient world as we know it, and even better yet, as we don't know it. Today we have some amazing stories that we are going to be sharing. We're going to be talking about some amazing places around the world, and we are so excited to bring this to you as the second episode of season. Gosh, what are we on? 4 now? Yeah, season 4.
Yeah.
I can't believe it that this show. I mean, I remember Genevieve telling me one time, if we make it for 20 episodes, we'll be successful. And I think we're on like almost 50 now. And
Yeah.
I'd say, you know, we have our niche, but our niche loves us. We've got a pretty good niche following. And speaking to that, you know, if you have friends or family who are interested in this type of thing or learning about ancient history, human origins, art, consciousness, the things that we talk about and delve into, and we're going to have guests on this season, please like, share, subscribe, let them know about the show. We're just going to grow and get better. The episodes are improving in quality thanks to our wonderful producer, Darren. And we're just excited to bring you along for the journey. So please sit down, grab something nice to drink or eat, and get ready to learn some amazing things about the ancient world. I'm going to hand it over to George, and he's going to get us started.
Hey, George.
Well, hello. Welcome. Or should I say in Welsh, croeso. Yeah. Well, we see, there we are. I've been this week. It's been one of those funny old weeks where we've had in England and Wales, believe it or not, and I think viewers and listeners, please hold on to your seats. We've had good weather, so it's allowed me to go out. I think I mentioned last time, I'm busy putting a book together at the moment on the rock art of Wales and the Welsh Marches, and that's the sort of small band of land that runs between England and Wales. And I'm covering from the Paleolithic right through to the Bronze Age. No, sorry, the Iron Age, and 11 chapters. I've written the damn thing, but now I've got to go out and photograph those sites which I have missed out, which I didn't consider them insignificant, but because of my age and my agility to move across a landscape, I've left to the very end. And so last week and this week I've been visiting the Welsh Marches, a place called a county called Herefordshire. If any of you think about the Hereford Bull, that's where it comes from. And I've been working along the borders between Herefordshire and Wales. And then yesterday, for 2 days, I was working in Gloucestershire. So again, for you viewers who don't know where Gloucestershire is, just think about the Gloucestershire pig or the Gloucestershire sausage. And that'll put you right
there Gloucestershire cheese too? I feel like there's cheese.
The cheese, there we are. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And if we're in the cheese mood, Herefordshire hop as well, made from hops that make beer. But anyway, so I went out stupidly with Wellington boots that were a size too small for me.
No.
So the first thing I got was blisters on my ankles, stupid as I am. But I went to an absolutely fantastic Neolithic site, a standing stone which had been lost for quite some time. It had fallen fallen some time ago, but been incorporated into a medieval or post-medieval hedgerow. And I found it. And what was remarkable was I went there about 35, 40 years ago, and I forgot where it was. I eventually found it, and I thought I was going to be looking at some sort of usual sort of cut marks, but these were 6 cut marks, all in a linear pattern, which was quite exciting for me. Now, again, listeners, viewers, you might not get too excited about cut marks, but I'm afraid I do. And the reason why I do, and I've talked to Genevieve and Seth about this before, is that the more simpler the sign, and I see Genevieve sitting up now, the more the more simple the sign, usually the more complex that sign or the narrative behind that sign is hiding. And you think about the Christian cross, that's a classic example. And so what we've got with cut marks, they're a sort of a Neolithic Bronze Age phenomenon, maybe even going back even further, in fact. They're usually on soft rock, sandstone and limestone, and they go from really from Portugal, Spain, right through to southern Norway, 3,200 kilometers, and they're all doing the same sort of thing. So the question is, are we looking at the universal sign? So that's just one thing, but that's another discussion for another episode.
Yes,
so
that's very complex.
I'm wandering off a bit here, but I did all the sites I wanted to do. But the big thing yesterday was it was very, very hot, sort of a raging 27 degrees centigrade. And I was following along an absolutely wonderful archaeological linear feature called Offa's Dyke. And Offa's Dyke is something which is far more historical than prehistorical. It's an ancient Anglo-Saxon or early medieval linear earthworks, which divided England or the Anglo-Saxons from the Welsh tribes. And that was built constructed around about the 7th century AD. And what is interesting about that is that everything either side of that Offa's Dyke, that linear earthwork, has been preserved because these are usually marginal areas of the landscape where you can't farm properly. And so there's quite a little bit of rock, there's quite a few pieces of rock art lurking around, which is Bronze Age in date. And I had the pleasure, and it was a pleasure, and I will say it, even though I could hardly find any of the stuff, just walking through that beautiful landscape in Herefordshire and Gloucestershire and then into Wales to look for this stuff. And I did find, I think, 2/3 of the sites that I wanted to find. So when I did find a site, I was ecstatic. So that's been my week, my last week and a half of exploration into the work I'm doing for this book. So that's where I stand at the moment.
Awesome. Random side note. George, do you ever use duct tape, like on your blisters?
Yes, I've used everything on my blisters. I was lucky because I had a hospital appointment 3-4 days ago, and the nurses very kindly gave me some gauze for my ankles.
Aw. So, because I was going to say, actually, when I'm out in the field, there's one. I mean, I always bring duct tape with me. It's useful for so many things. But I've duct taped blisters before, and it solved the problem. Like with new boots, or preemptively duct tape your foot if you're pretty sure you're wearing new boots and you're going to get blisters. If you duct tape it, pro tip. There we go.
Some people are listening because these are some great ideas that I've never heard of. So again, like I just said, pro tips. Listen.
Yeah. Let's just a little note. Bring your duct tape. Yeah, duct tape your ankles, the back of your heels.
Not just for making wallets and boats. They can help you with your field work.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring a roll of it the next time we go on our expedition, Genevieve.
I do. I always have one in my bag. I have it with me.
I did want to ask George something because he mentioned something in the last episode where I believe he said something like he's published over 50 books now. Or
51, right?
Yeah.
51 going for 52, I think, right now.
So I had a question for our listeners who might be wondering how that happened. Do you sit down and go, I'm going to write 1,000 words no matter what, and that's the goal, and you just do it every day? What's your method, sir? I'm just curious. That's a lot of publications. They're not like 20-page books either. These are full publications, as far as I know.
I'll just give you a little bit of a hint, Seth. I look 66, but I'm actually 106. And so I've had all that time. to go and write these damn books. No, what it basically is, it's just it's very much like I mean, there's a very good friend of mine, Tim Yates, who did his PhD on the rock art of Sweden, and his title was called "The Writing Machine," and that was then there was a subtitle to that, the rock art of Bohuslän in Sweden. And I take that idea, that phrase, "the writing machine," literally, because that's how it became for me. And it's all about, I suppose, career building. And also just getting really excited about some of the stuff that I've actually encountered in my life, and the one pleasure I get, and again it's I do this as well. I do a lot of book reviewing, and I'm always fascinated by people who've gone and published their masters or their PhDs, and you'd be surprised some of the new ideas are coming out. I mean, you always think that when you're writing a book, you think you are the king or queen of that particular subject. But believe you me, there are people before me who have written a damn sight better than I have. I've written a lot of stuff, but I've also churned out a lot of rubbish as well. So I'm being self-deprecating here, but I believe that it is important. I mean, if you had said to me, well, which books would you pick out, George? I could probably pick out maybe 3 or 4, which I consider to be of use to the world, a legacy to the world. And the 2 most important ones was the ones I wrote or I edited with Chris Chippendale, which was The Figurative Landscape of Rock Art, Cambridge University Press, 2004, and also European Landscapes of Rock Art, which was Routledge with Christian Chippendale, 2002. And really, those 2 books, in many respects, like your book, in fact, Genevieve, The Science, it really put me on the map. It was one of those sort of career changes where you go from a spotty little sort of post grad into something a little bit more sort of upmarket. And that's basically it. It's also a lot of luck as well. I've had a hell of a lot of luck in my time, and I can't knock that at all.
You know what I would like to say though, George, and I think this is, you don't want to sell yourself short, which is that like there's luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that you were prepared when the door was opened. And I often say as well, I mean, I think it's actually not a bad thing just to flag for people, which is that, I think people don't always get to see all of the grant applications that we had rejected or all the things that don't work, right? And so I think sometimes it seems like we've either come out of nowhere or like we've just had really good luck, and they don't see kind of the grind that goes behind it, which is what we did so that we were prepared. So when the door opened, we were like, I'm ready to walk through that thing, because we'd been doing it for like, 15, 20 years, or like with you, George. I mean, so again, you also are, but again, you're also incredibly British and very self-deprecating. And we love you, but you're an incredibly good writer as well. So just so you know, I think, so don't sell yourself short.
Well, I say forget the writer. I'm just a nice person, I hope.
Yay! Right? Well, you're like what matters, right? So no, absolutely. I mean, that's why we like hanging out with you. So I mean, and of course, that's what George has been up to, and then of course, George, we've been starting to prep for the fact that we're going to Jordan in early June. So that's really exciting. And I'm super pumped about that. And this is going to be, there's some sites I've been dying to show George, which are like multi-layered paint engraving. Oh, it's going to be epic. So I think we're going to, George and I were talking about it, we'll definitely, we're staying out in the Bedouin camps, but there's a couple places where I think we will have enough internet that we thought we might actually try and film from out there and do a podcast episode. Yeah, maybe even a couple.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll definitely, so stay tuned for that. We'll do some on-site in the field stuff. That would be a blast. And we're going to Petra, of course. Because we're going to be also doing some surveying around Petra. So it should be a pretty good time. So that'll be fun. So other than that, my fun news, of course, is that my colleague, our colleague, because she's George's colleague as well, Barbara Ostrovec, is actually staying with me, and we're working together on another project, which I can't quite talk about yet, but it's incredibly cool. It relates to databases and geometric signs and, all sorts of fun stuff, pattern recognition things. But so Barbara is one of the people who was just in Colombia studying that huge set of wall panels that, of course, everybody got really excited about a couple of years ago, and that kind of the news went around the world. And so we will have Barbara on to talk about the art in Colombia finally, because viewers and listeners have asked, right? And I never wanted, and I never wanted to talk about Barbara's stuff because I knew she was down there working on it. But and I mean George did too. But it was like we didn't know quite what they were finding yet, or like what the reality was, because of course there was kind of like so much speculation about because these are the ones, like, for people who haven't heard about the story, the panels are so multi-layered, like it's literally like relatively modern art all the way back to Paleolithic art on the same panels.
We'll make sure there's images up right now.
Oh, she has beautiful photos. Yeah, I've seen them. So yeah, we'll definitely make sure people. It's hard to believe it's real. Like
yes.
the 30 kilometers of it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. Like she, yeah, and
yeah.
That's something I don't want to give it too much. I don't want to give too much away but it's just
right.
stunning.
Save it.
Yeah, so we'll save it. But yeah, the viewers and listeners are going to love it. This is going to answer some of the questions that people have been dying to know about. So I'm excited about that. So we'll definitely in the next week or two, we'll have Barbara come on and we'll get her to talk about it. So that'll be awesome. Okay, she's just really jet lagged right now, so she's not ready for it yet. Stay tuned. So I just wanted to, for my little contribution to today, I just wanted to flag, again, because we had so many stories that happened during our break. It was wild. It was like, again, the embarrassment of riches. It's nice when you get all these lovely stories. So I just wanted to flag a couple stories quickly. And then I know Seth had a big thing he wanted to talk about, and George had a couple fun things to talk about. But I just wanted to kind of be able to check off our list of other stories I wanted to make sure we mentioned because they were very important in their own right. So first of all, the Sima del Elefante this is part of the Atapuerca complex, which is in the Burgos Mountains in Spain. And Atapuerca, of course, is very famous for sites like the Cima de las Huesas, which means the pit of bones. And this is like the oldest spot where people weren't burying their dead, but they appear to be intentionally placing their dead into a pit that was in here. And that there was even one really cool Acheulean hand axe that was found in there. So, yes.
I just have to throw this in there because you're talking about it and it excites me so much.
Please.
So that hand axe that you're talking about is dubbed Excalibur, and it's made out of rose quartz. And it is one of the single most hard to deny pieces of evidence of an idea of an afterlife or some sort of offering to the dead. And the date for this is about 430, 450,000 years ago. So even Rising Star is 250, 330,000 years ago. This predates that by 100,000 years. We're talking about
and never used. And never used.
In growth quartz. I don't know if anyone's handled growth quartz before, but it's very soft. If you tried to use it would just shatter. It would break.
Yeah.
So ornamental. Often with, I think, 47 individuals just continue. I had to throw that in. It's
no, I'm so glad you did. I love that too. No, I was going to mention Excalibur, but not nearly as well as you just did. So that was perfect. But yeah, so Cima de las Huesas we know about it, but it's only like 450,000, I think. Mm-hmm. Again, really cool site. But this is a site where there's all these different species, and it's like the stratigraphy just goes all the way back into the millions of years. Well, million and a bit. Yeah. So you've got ancestral Neanderthals, I believe, and there's even layers that are more modern too. Like there's layers down to the Upper Paleolithic even. Now there's not any art, sadly, but I believe there is at least one Upper Paleolithic, if not a Neolithic layer there as well. So area basically in Spain, which was occupied for over 1 million years off and on by different hominin species, and has really helped us understand what was happening with evolution in Europe as opposed to the evolution in Africa. And also very interesting stuff, which the team there have their own ideas about, maybe where Heidelbergensis fits in, but there's lots of those intermediate species as well. Sima del Elefante is very, very old, and I'm going to put my smart scientist glasses on and make sure I read it right and get the dates right for us here, because this is important. Okay, so we've got, so it is, let's go down to that particular very exciting story. Okay, so this is a hominin midface fossil. So that means it's like the center part of the face, right, Seth? That's what we're talking about. Is this
talking
piece right
about
here?
like these right here, the cheekbones are called the zygomatic arches. And the part that we're able to see, and we'll of course have Darren put images up so you can really see what Jen's talking about here. But it's the cheekbone basically, and kind of leading up to the nose and right around the mouth and around the eye is kind of what we have.
So so and again, this dates to between 1.1 and 1.4 million BP, so before present. So between 1.1 to 1.4 million years ago. Here's what's really cool, though, is that we also have another species around 900,000 there called Homo antecessor, which is from another one of the little caves flats in the region. It's probably within 100 meters, maybe 200 meters. They're all close together. And so Homo antecessor has a flatter vertical face like us, versus this one, because we have the midface of the fossil, we can tell that their face actually projects forward a little bit, which is more like a Homo erectus. And so this is where this was very exciting, because this is a whole different group. The projecting forward face folks are older. It's a different hominin species versus the Homo antecessor, which I think I've heard it called other things too, but it's basically thought to be more of a direct relative, and it has the same flat face like we do. So this is a whole different group. They think they might be seeing complete population replacement. So again, we're talking here about the idea that one group lived in the spot, which was probably a really nice place to live, and then they wandered off or went extinct or did what they did, and then a whole different group came in later and moved into the same area, probably because it was a good location, and then lived there as well. But that this is not a direct evolution one to the other. It might be replacement, but it could also be, I don't know about evolutionary piece. You'd have to talk about that, Seth. And I should point out too, Seth does have, you talked about this, right? Like you did some pieces that people can link to, right?
I did a blog post on this. Yes, we will link to a blog post that I wrote in detail about.
Yeah, so you can dive in, basically the deep dive.
Yeah, but this fossil has been dubbed pink for some reason. I don't know why, but the name is pink. So.
Oh, that's right. Well, I think it's because the name Rosa. I believe Rosa is the first name of the lead investigator on it. So I think it was named because Rosa is pink in Spanish. I think that was why.
Okay.
I believe.
I have no idea what the connection is. Yeah.
I think it was that. I think it was Rosa. Yeah. Okay. And then the only other piece, so we'll just say, go check out Seth's stuff for a deep dive into all this cool fossil stuff. The only other thing I thought was neat, just because I'd never seen it before, and so I wanted to flag it for viewers and listeners as well, was they've named it slightly differently. So again, with the projecting forward face, they think it's a relative or very close to being a Homo erectus, but because this is in Europe and Homo erectus is generally in Africa, they called it Homo affinis erectus. And affinis is Latin. So the Latin, and they've shortened it to AFF sometimes. But yeah, Homo affinis erectus. So that means it has an affinity, or it seems similar or related to the species, but it's not necessarily the same. So it's almost like they've tucked a little footnote into the middle of the name of it. So, but Seth, you were intrigued by that. So I'll let you, if you have some thoughts on that, please feel free to jump in.
So adding affinis to erectus and potentially dubbing a new species is very interesting. First of all, this goes back to, I think we talked about it in the last episode, where the Ethiopians still don't have a designation of Homo anything, and yet here we have just one bone, facial bone, and it's Homo affinis erectus. We have a name of the species. Done. Stamped. I don't understand. But the affinis part, at least, I'm conflicted, because I feel like they're using it to say this specimen is extremely close to erectus, but it's not erectus. We don't know what it is, so we're just gonna lump it together.
Yeah.
I don't really know enough right now. I don't know if we should have named it anything, frankly. I think I'm not a morphological expert. I took an erectus skull and put it next to this pink specimen. versus next to a antecessor. I don't know what my interpretation would be. I know if my interpretation would matter, but I don't know if we should be designating potentially a new species that have one frontal bone, especially when we have other species or not species, but
And also we do have, I mean, Homo erectus, again, we were talking about this last time, weren't we? Like, isn't it like 1.9 million or something? Like, it's crazy. 1.8, 1.9 million now. So Homo erectus was floating around in Europe already at that time. And so I think the question is could they not, some of them have just wandered off to Spain and have settled there.
The only evidence we have aside from this now potential in here in Elefante is Dmanisi in Georgia, where we have these fossils.
Is that 1.8 million or something like that?
It's about 1.8, 1.9. And these fossils also are very interesting. The researchers originally wanted to dub them Homo georgica. There's still some debate on whether they should be. There's even debate now on whether, I think it's 5 skulls. There's some debate on whether like 2 of them should be Homo georgicus and 3 of them are Homo erectus. Well, most people I know, they're all Homo erectus. But that was kind of the line in the geographical sand that Homo erectus never crossed. So this, finding a potential Homo erectus relative or offshoot way farther west in Spain, it's way farther than we imagined, and the date at 1.1, 1.2. Oh, it's a very interesting. It's all these are fun and fun, but I guess I don't know why we're dubbing it what we're dubbing it so early.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, I think the more we're learning, like the more we learn about the way our hominin ancestors moved around the globe, I think the more we're realizing that they pretty much moved anywhere and everywhere that they could. And so again,
Antarctica.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I think, it's the question is maybe us thinking it's impossible or, unlikely for erectus to have ended up in Spain doesn't seem actually that likely when Dmanisi, and we're talking about, and also even with, if it has a slightly different morphology, like in the face. So again, if morphology basically means a slightly different facial structure or construction of it. So even if the face looks a little different than the Dmanisi ones did, we're talking about 500,000 years later.
Exactly.
You could have what's called like cultural, well, not cultural, pardon me, but biological divergence or genetic drift. Like there's more than enough time for them to have slightly slid off and maybe have slightly different features, but still be roughly erectus because it takes a long time for species to split.
I was going to chip in there because I think you've touched on a very interesting point about the longevity of certain hominins, and obviously they're going through a transition. They're starting off with one particular a skeletal remain, and ending up maybe 1.9 million years later in something completely different. And this is all about adaptation, changes in environment, changes in dietary, for example. And I think this, I quite like the idea of using AFF or affinis, because the simple reason being, if we don't know now, we probably will find out later on. And I just think it's a good holding, sort of like a good holding terminology, which is good to use to make sure we get things right.
Yeah, well, like I said, it feels like they put a footnote or an asterisk right in the middle of the name, basically. Is what they said. It looks a little bit, it looks kind of like, but we don't want to completely lean into it. So that's cool.
For this episode, I looked up if there's any other hominin with the affinis attachment to it. And there's a few specimens from Africa that are Australopithecines, eventually Homo habilis, but there has not been a specific hominin like affinis erectus that has been dubbed until now. So that's very interesting. I wanted to mention, going back a little to variation, look at us today, modern humans. Modern humans have a vast and broad biological variation, and yet we are all the same species. We also have the same DNA. Race is not a biological feature. It is a cultural adaptation. Our differences are based on adaptations to ecological niches. We are all the same species. We might vary, but we're the same. So why wouldn't, especially as George mentioned, over 1.9 million years, Homo erectus not look different in Africa versus in Georgia versus in Spain? Yet still be Homo erectus.
Yep.
So there's a lot to uncover, and as I always like to say, and as you've said about looking through a room with a keyhole, you know, we only get such small glimpses of
I
the
know.
past. And to build it, even to what we have today, I would be shocked if someone invents a time machine in 20 years, comes back and is like, everything you guys have done is completely wrong. Everything. Oh, like I would be shocked, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think the other thing I thought was neat about the story, which I just wanted to ask, because again, like I'm not, obviously I've done, you know, grad level classes on bioanth stuff, but I'm not a specialist, right? Like I know enough to ask the right questions, but also I know enough to know I don't know everything. So with the one from the Homo antecessors, just since it came up, I just wanted to ask, and that this one's got the flat face like us, and they think it might be population replacement, which implies they came from somewhere else and then settled in that same location because it was a good location. And it was roughly 900,000 years ago. So let's say 300,000 years later, roughly. My question is, where did they come from? Who are they? And are they the ones that Neanderthals descended from? I think. And that's where they were, right? Like it's so confusing, and like in a really fun way. Like it's a delicious problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's like
Absolutely.
I'm like, but if you were trying to draw it on a whiteboard, we would be making weird lines and like circling things, and like we wouldn't actually know. Like, well, do these people go to here? Because I think, do you know what I'm saying, right? Like if it's not, because in 300,000 years, you're probably not going to get a face flattening. That's too fast. So it's very unlikely that you're going to get that projecting face going to a flat face in 300,000 years. Am I right? I feel like that's a much slower evolutionary shift when it's a big bone structure like that. So it's probably different people.
Yeah, absolutely. So to give a little background, I did a little quick summary of my notes so I know what I'm talking about. So Homo antecessor is mainly known from the site of Grandolina, which again is in the
the Atapuerca area.
Atapuerca, that's what I'm trying to think of. It's in the Atapuerca area. And so basically, here's what you have to think of. Homo erectus is the template for modern humans. Once Homo erectus evolved about 2.5 million years ago in Africa, we have not changed, honestly, besides our face, too much from that template. So they migrated out, as we just mentioned, about 1.8 million years ago, reaching Georgia. They probably had many migrations out of Africa to Australia, Europe, to Asia, over hundreds of thousands of years that we have no trace of, that we will never find, etc. So where does Homo antecessor come from? Homo antecessor is probably a branch of Homo erectus that moved west into Europe, was isolated long enough from other Homo erectus groups. They were able to evolve to ecological niches enough that they became their own species over a longer period of time. And yet it is believed that Homo antecessor, which again is about 800 to 900,000 years ago, is a species that predate what is currently, although it's being debated, is known as Homo heidelbergensis. But that whole taxonomic sphere is kind of diminishing and is being turned into basal Neanderthals, which is kind of a sphere point.
Which just means like old school Neanderthal in street speak.
Basically. So like they're not different enough to be their own species. They're basically just
Neanderthals changing over time slightly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we're already talking about changing over time.
Okay, so now I have another question. I have more questions. This is how this happens. Okay, so
worse. It makes more questions.
Right, that's good. That means we're doing well here. Okay, so the last I read, it was thought that Neanderthals and humans split around 600,000 years ago. Am I correct? 600,000 to 700,000 was the split.
I read 4 to 6 is what I've
Okay.
always changing,
So
but, yeah.
what I'm asking then is Homo antecessor and Heidelbergensis then, is that our common ancestor?
Yes.
And why are they in Europe?
Heidelbergensis is believed to be our common ancestor between modern humans and Neanderthals. And then right above Heidelbergensis would be ancestor.
Okay. And so
that we
the problem we're having is that we've never managed to successfully sequence genetic material back. Like we've got proteins back that far, but we don't actually have DNA back that far. So we don't truly know what the relationship is. We're taking educated guesses based on fossil changes and other things over time. And also tools. They look at lineages of tools.
You're right.
Too.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm
frankly real quick. I think we only have DNA from modern humans, Denisovan, Neanderthals.
Yeah. And the Heidelbergensis and Sima del Elefante, if they are Heidelbergensis or they're old school Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Genevieve's new term for it.
We have a few proteins from different hominins, but DNA, like that.
Only those ones. Yeah. So the rest of it's us speculating. I mean, in a professional, knowledgeable way, but it is a best guess, basically. So here's what I'm trying to figure out, though. So did humans and Neanderthals, where did they split? That's what I'm asking, I guess, is I'm trying to ask, because I believe the folks in Atapuerca have suggested maybe the split happened in that area, and then Homo sapien back migrated into Africa.
Right.
Or did the Homo heidelbergensis antecessor, whatever we want to call them, that one in the middle, the bridge species, our common ancestor, were they in Africa? Did some of them, which became Homo sapiens, stay there? Did other ones leave, which became Neanderthals? Like, do you know what I mean? We don't actually know, do we? Like, this is a complete mystery. Am I right? Like, we don't actually know right now.
It really is. And it brings up a very interesting point that a lot of people have a misunderstanding about, which is fine because it's only somewhat recent that this information has changed. Up until about 4 years ago, everyone thought sub-Saharan Africans had 0% Neanderthal DNA. We know that is not true. Sub-Saharan Africans do possess Neanderthal DNA, which suggests, as you just mentioned, either an introgression of Neanderthals from Europe into Africa or Homo sapiens returning from Europe after they interbred with Neanderthals back into Africa, dispersing that DNA into the populations there. Migrating humans, I mean, there are professors who spend their whole lives just on migration. It's well beyond population genetics is well beyond my comprehension at the current.
It's a whole subfield that people specialize and spend a career on. Yeah,
absolutely.
But I just wanted to ask because and again, so I think the take-home message for viewers, listeners, is that while we definitely have some ideas about it, we frankly don't quite know. Like we roughly know approximately, because I believe with the proteins and stuff, we have been able to tell approximately when the split happened. And then I think also to do with genetic mutations, we can see where the mutations start to split off. And I think that's how we know when Neanderthals and humans split, roughly. But that we don't actually know the location in which that happened and who were the ones who stayed tending the home fires and which ones went for a wander to a different part of the planet. We actually don't know who that is right now. We do know Denisovans were a subsplit from Neanderthals later, but we don't know where that human Neanderthal split actually took place, which is so cool and so interesting. And yet, I mean, it's so fun. I mean, I'm guessing in the next probably 10, 20 years, we may actually know if we can do the genetics, if we can find some more sites. So it'll be cool to see, hey?
Yes, absolutely. And that'll be the day that we're able to more easily obtain either proteomics or DNA is truly going to be a fantastic day.
Game changer. So any final thoughts, George, since we went wandering off until human Neanderthal land?
It's way, just like I'm sticking with rock art.
I know, right? Well, you can see where it's like a whole messy mire, like it's a big swamp over there too, right? Like we're like, we don't know. So it's fascinating. I love it. I think it's so interesting though.
It's a plate of spaghetti, I'm afraid.
It's a total plate of spaghetti, and we don't know where the noodles go.
No.
Okay, well, move on because we got totally. But that was a nice, fun deep dive. So I'm glad that was enjoyable.
Yes.
And so I did want to just quickly flag, this is a fast one that I wanted to flag, and then we want to talk about your stuff, Seth, that you wanted to talk about. I just wanted to flag the really cool thing, because I'm always excited anytime we're filling in blank spots on the map, basically. And so they recently just found 800 stone tools, 800, that's a lot, in a dried lake bed in Iraq. And what makes it even cooler, though, is that these stone tools, I just want to, again, I'm going to double check the dates here, so I'm making sure I get this perfectly right for us, because it's really, really neat. Okay, so some of the tools they found, so again, keeping in mind that over time, the way tools look change, and so they're able to roughly date things, and again, associate them with species based on the cultures and the species, how they look, right? So some of the stone tools date back to 1.5 million years ago. So I bet you it's those pesky Homo erectus again.
Most likely. Were they what kind? Were they hand axes?
Yes, let's see. So hand axes estimated to be 1.5 million. So yep, they're hand axes, exactly how you think. And they're calling them early Paleolithic. And there were also flakes of stone that were left behind. And then between 250 and 400,000 years ago. So that's way later, hey? So 1.5 million, and then between 250 and 400,000. And that could very well be Neanderthal in that region, hey? Because there's actually Neanderthal in the Middle East. Yeah. There was Neanderthal living in that region. I know my PhD supervisor, April Knoll, she ran a site, like she was the PI on a site in northern Jordan where they were looking at Neanderthals living in that kind of time frame near the edge of a marsh. So again, dried lake bed, like this is the thing. You find the water, you find the people, right? And
exactly.
So I think, though, I just wanted to flag that, so we've got two different sets of hominins, again, living in obviously what's a prime area at these different points. So that, again, either 1.5 million years ago or 250, 400,000 years ago, these are nice waterfront properties, if you will. and so, again, they probably had all very similar probably to what we're looking at in Jordan in that marshland. I bet you it was probably something similar, right? So there's lots of birds, things like that, lots of stuff to eat, right? And animals need water, so it's always a good location. But just a place that really nobody really knew about stone tools in Iraq before for lots of different reasons, right? So this is where we're suddenly, again, planting flags on maps in areas that used to just be blank spots. And so it's really, really exciting to see that. And I think that slides really nicely in, though, thinking of paleo climate changes and then also areas that have been understudied. Seth, take it away.
Well, just very, very quickly, it actually leads nicely into what you're going to be saying next, Seth, because that material from Iraq is probably when the landscape was green. There we are.
Yep. Yeah, literally. And the only other note was that George and I actually in Jordan, we found some tools though that probably fit into that 250 to 400,000 as well.
And the UAE.
Yep. Yeah, and in the UAE. Yeah. So there we go. So speaking of which is the United Arab Emirates for anyone who's not sure. Right. Yeah. So George and I also worked in Abu Dhabi. So so I think there's a lot going on in this region, and I think that's where again it's just not been studied as well. So okay, go Seth.
This definitely involves a area of land that a large swath of land, kind of all of Arabia, UAE, anything that you think of as desert in the Middle East is basically land that most anthropologists kind of have looked over the past few decades, thinking, well, they're desert, humans haven't migrated through here, how could they tend to survive? We haven't found many fossils up until this point. We haven't found much rock art. We're not going to look too much. But changing, as Genevieve and George have mentioned, they're in Jordan and Petra. They're looking all around the UAE. They're finding what you're going to see in a few months, few years. I don't know. Some amazing things.
Yeah.
One thing that was announced a couple of weeks ago that I'm going to go into detail. I will show the story, but when I have guest Dr. Michael Petralia on, who was one of the co-authors on this very important study that's lasted a couple of years now, is Arabia, a couple 100,000 years ago, was green, not a desert. I don't mean like a savanna. I mean like green. Like there was water, there were lakes, there was trees abundantly everywhere. We didn't see rock art all through the land. And the way they did it was we actually found this cave where obviously cave preserve things differently than the outside world does. And so they went into a cave that has heliotherms that they were able to test the different prognostic data from. I'm not very into this type of geo dating.
Geochemical analysis stuff. Yeah.
So they used this cave and they were able to find that throughout the time that humans would have been migrating out of Africa, Arabia was green, making it that Arabia would have, and most likely was, a pivotal point for humans to migrate out of Africa. That does not mean this was the only way that humans migrated out of Africa, but it proposes a very new, probable, and potential way that, as we have said, many of these migrations could have gone. Because we're finding different species in Asia, in Europe, and that's because there's been so many dispersals. And the more potential ways that we find humans dispersed, the easier we can track them, see what happened, why they look the way they look, how the ecological changes that we've mentioned occurred, why they occurred, because why would you adapt to a certain landscape if that landscape didn't exist? So studying paleoecology is extremely important because it tells us basically how we got to why our bodies, our biology is what it is today. And so Green Arabia and Green Gobi is next. The deserts of the world have not always been desert. There's a lot to talk about, and there's going to be a lot to find in these places because humans have been there for hundreds of thousands of years, and we just never knew about it.
Totally. Well, I mean, I think, George, I mean, we can certainly talk about this piece, which was that our team that George and I were co-PIs on, our team in Abu Dhabi found the edge of a paleo lake.
Oh yes, absolutely.
We identified the edge of a paleo lake, and so again, and it looked like it was rather large. So this is the thing, and I mean the tools that we found, like our team found, I mean, it was like those tools were laid down over thousands of years. Like, right, George? I would say, like, I mean, it definitely, like, the tool. It was a very impressive relic field, which is what we call the tools when they drop to the desert floor. And it was a very impressive one. Hey, George, like in the sense of like, that was a lot. There was a lot of tools there. And so this does not suggest a quick stroll past. This suggests serious occupation.
I think it was stratigraphic at one point as well, Jen, because our lithic specialist identified Neanderthal material, not very much, but enough. And we saw a lot of Neanderthal stuff in Jordan, but overlaying that was later material. So quite clearly, they're using the same place over many hundreds of thousands of years. But really, stunning landscape, and also, as Seth said, that we're looking at a landscape which is dynamic, and more importantly, in those times when the climate in that area was wetter, if you've got water, you've got green. It's as simple as that. And I think, that's one of the big attractions for any society, any hominin moving through that landscape. And if it's lush enough, they'll settle there.
Well, I mean, Field Survey 101 is find the water, you find the people. Like that's that's what you need to do. I was just going to say that this is making me think too that a couple of the Bedouin who I was working with last time I was in Jordan, and they were like the folks who they were born out in the black tent still. Like they were much more traditional, in touch with the land, really knew the stories. One of them pointed out to me a spot in Wadi Rum where, as part of their oral tradition, there used to be trees there. And he was telling me about the fact that there used to be trees in that piece of Wadi Rum, and this is a story that's been passed down, and that there were also dangerous animals. It was known as an area which had dangerous animals in it. So I don't know who was there, but it was used to be, and now of course it's all open sand and big dramatic rock formations. But it's almost like you're trying to imagine laying the blanket the carpet down, if you will, of like the greenery and the trees, and then trying to imagine what would this landscape actually look like if it had dirt and plants and trees and everything. It's wild. It's really interesting to think about, to try and imagine how different it looked.
Well, if we think about it in many respects, Jen, where I certainly am and where probably Seth is, only 25,000 years ago, -10 average summer temperatures, very, very cold, and maybe where I am at the moment, there'll be 2 kilometers of ice above me. So it just tells you how landscapes change very, very quickly. How the environmental changes are quick. They determine what is going to be growing there, what isn't going to be growing there. And I dare say, at one point when Neanderthals were roaming around around the Arabian Gulf, there would have been a lush green landscape, and why not?
Yeah. So no, it's fun. It's fun to think about. I mean, I think one of the neat things is I imagine in the next few years that probably we'll be able to reconstruct landscapes in virtual reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure
projects like that, and you might be involved in some, are already being developed and worked on. Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think that's going to be wild to be able to to basically see what it looked like 50,000 years ago.
I know, let's not get into a Apple versus Meta debate or anything, but if I could throw a Vision Pro on right now with those like 4K displays in each eye and walk through the paleo environment of East Africa and watch, Homo habilis make tools. I mean, can you just and it's fully accurate, and you just sit there and take notes and just watch. I mean,
and the thing is that that's going to happen. It's wild. It's going to be a really cool thing when it does happen. I think this is where I know that again, there's always a lot of debate about different technologies and things, but overall, technology has unlocked so many new levels for us. And so I think it's where, as with anything, there's always, you want to make sure we're being ethical and, properly integrating things in. But, I think that at the same time, I think it can be done well. And I think, again, that's where we just need to make sure that we are leading the charge and ensuring that it is done well. And then in which case, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be integrating new tools and really opening it up, not just for us, but also, I think, for the public. I think what an amazing tool for kids in school if they had the capacity to go visit these places in Africa, so to speak, and really understand it by being in it. I think that would be an extraordinary experience that would really better connect young people with some of this ancient history that feels kind of separate right now, right? And then, but if they could see it and it felt so tangible, I think it would be really neat. It'd be a wonderful way.
I think it's fair to say I probably have worked with children more recently than anyone else. Not parent-wise, but working with children anthropology-wise. And literally just having, a skull that they can hold and touch and look at versus a picture in a book.
Oh, yeah.
The difference in what their interest level and what they absorb and what they remember. My thing with the world of paleoanthropology, it's really fun learning about what we're doing. You're not going to remember. That's how we make everything so try to make everything so fun and enjoyable. So when you when we talk about virtual reality and there's going to be a lot of challenges, but there's going to be a lot of fun to do it as well. People are going to really have fun and learn, and it's going to issue forth a whole new generation of education. We just have to get.
So I think we're getting close, though. That's all I'll say. May or may not be working in something in that area. One of the stay tuned.
Can I just be really, really controversial and a little bit political? I hope that a certain country in this world will behave themselves in terms of making sure that the right education in terms of science is getting through to the people that deserve to be hearing about it. I'm very, very, as a British scholar, I'm very, very deeply concerned about my colleagues in this particular country. I'm not going to mention any names or where it is. However, the cuts in funding, the changes in the ethics of their universities is worrying me a lot. And I just have a sneaky feeling that it's only going to get worse. I just hope that people can see common sense. That's it. That's my statement.
And going with what George said, I will say this, because I feel very strongly about this. So this podcast is a podcast by the world of paleoanthropology. And the world of paleoanthropology is a strong, loud supporter of science education, open access, and frankly, and if we lose listeners, I really don't care, because if you're one of these people, I don't care. We're not MAGA, and we're not with the MAGA agenda. And frankly, everything that supports goes against what science does. And we will stand up for truth and science when we need to. We will speak out for it. And science, truth, honesty, those are pillars of what the people that I surround myself to feel stand by. And the world gets darker. There are points of light with the Paleo Post podcast that you get to listen to on a weekly basis. And, it'll get better. It will. It really will.
Yeah. Well, and I think the one thing I would add to that, and I'm feeling very blessed that I'm currently living in a different part of the world where, frankly, I'm very lucky to not have to actually have this as really part of my daily thing. I'm surrounded by actually a lot of very positive, enthusiastic, optimistic people, and it's beautiful. So I think it's really wild. Like, so I send all my love out in the direction of everyone who I know is so stressed and worried and just doesn't kind of know what the future holds. I think the only piece I would say is that the one good thing I would say about humans is that overall, like, human resilience, our capacity to survive difficult moments, I think as paleoanthropologists, we've actually, or one of the things that's an honor in a way, to be able to see all of these incredible choke points where our ancestors figured something out and they moved forward and, they leveled up from it. And like, so I actually think, again, it's not something you ever wish on anybody, but I also believe that we will absolutely, we will persevere and we will move through this, and it will become there when we go in the future. This will like barely warrant a page in the history books, no offense, but like, it's really going to be, it's a crappy moment, but you got to take the long view of history. And the thing is that it will pass. It will absolutely pass. And I believe, really, like, down to my bones, that like, it's going to be okay. That might be rough right now, but it will, I think there are more, again, what did Einstein say? You have the choice of either, the one decision you really have in life is whether you live in a friendly or a hostile universe. And I choose friendly every time, and I will stubbornly stand by that. And I think that that's honestly half the battle, is not believing, not allowing the hostile to become the reality.
Yeah,
and part of that is just refusing to being like, no, it's not okay, and we're not going to let that happen. We choose friendly, and we choose love.
Well done, Genevieve Einstein.
Yes, I think that is a wonderful place for us to end this episode on a message of love and peace. We will see you guys all on the next. Yes, Genevieve, what?
No, I was just going to say, and hope and optimism.
Yes, hope and optimism.
And the hope and optimism. Yes, yeah, and that humans are amazing. Yay, humans! I love humans. That's why we study them.
Human resilience truly is a thing to behold. Yeah. We are not in that way, but we are worse than toxic. We're not going anywhere. I don't believe in human extinction. I truly don't. And we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So there we go. So I like that. I think we should definitely end on that note. And I know George had things, but George, we promise we'll talk about your stuff next time. Yeah.
Well, actually, coincidentally, the battery on my phone is about to run out anyway. So it's coming at a good time, really. But I'm happy to talk about it next time.
Yeah. Yes, well, George has got some good stuff. So you can start next time, since we ran off down rabbit holes.
No, we haven't. We haven't run down a rabbit hole. I think we've kept ourselves pretty sort of tight. in terms of where we want to go, where we want to go with this episode. It's been a damn good conversation. I hope that our listeners and viewers are shouting down the airwaves saying, "You got it wrong," or "You got it right." And that's what it's all about. It's all about discussion and believing in your passion, and I'm sure that carries through from the way all three of us speak, and also the people that listen to us as well. So it's coming at the right time.
Yes.
Totally is. Yes,
right.
Exactly. So there we go. We'll leave it there, but we already have awesome stuff for next time. So you better come back. And Barbara will be here soon.
Yes. All right, guys.
Great.
Thank you so much for viewing. Please like, subscribe, share if you learned something. It really helps support the channel. We don't make anything off of it. Any ad money that YouTube makes goes supporting the website. Like, we don't benefit from it. Please just like, subscribe. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.